Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart, the Bitcoin cycle, if you will. As you can see, the amount of time that happens between the halvings and the peaks. And what I especially wanted to take a look at today is just by showing a measure of time from the lows to the eventual peaks and see where we are in line with that. As I've shown y'all in the past before, we've put in the data and shown that when you go from the newest break of the former all-time high, this average right here and this vertical yellow line, that it's an average about 300 days from a break of the former all-time high to the eventual next cycle peak. So this is after the peaks of the previous cycle have already happened, after there's already been a bottom. Once the former all-time high has been broken, again, that yellow line, how many days there is from there to the eventual peak. You can see it says around 300, puts us later this year. And we've also talked about or done the averages from when there is the halving, that is the white line. I have those all marked out here for you. And as you can see, this yellow line showing a break of the 2017 all-time high, okay? But all the white lines are the halvings, and the average from those to the next peaks puts us out at around August of next year. But what I wanted to do today is show you from the bottom to eventual top. We'll take a look at a couple other indicators. Let's start off with fear and greed, and just something for you guys to keep in mind. Stocks have entered into extreme greed, so that's going to have an influence on the market. In my opinion, there's something fishy about all this, because typically we are promised increased volatility in election years. You can see that right here. And this is the October to November election year average. You can see there's increased volatility, usually a bit of a sell-off. Now, we did get that sell-off when there was the whole yen carry trade unwind. Let me find that here. So on average, when the Fed cuts rates, there's typically around a 10% sell-off going into the rate cuts in bullish, that dark green line scenario. We had that. We haven't seen anything since. So in my opinion, I don't feel like this year has been totally normal for an election year cycle, at least as far as the volatility that was promised. Let's give the crypto fear and greed a refresh. And crypto, of course, it's going to be crawling on up. We were down into, I want to say, low neutrality or high fear not that long ago. Now, I have no doubt that crypto is going to be climbing up towards the greed end again. So you can see right here, we were down in the 30s, slowly climbing up. We've been taking a look at this from the last year. I'm going to keep talking about this. We have lower highs and lower lows. But recently here, we have been creating higher lows. Now, we haven't created a higher high from this point, but I'm curious to see if that's going to happen in the near future. Whichever way we break, I believe, is going to signal which direction we're going to be going sooner than later. So far, we're still stuck in that range. Of course, as we talk about the cycle, the reason a lot of you are here, and if you're new, this is very important for you to know, is that when Bitcoin dominance, so this means that around 60% of all money in crypto right now is in Bitcoin. That is what's known as Bitcoin dominance. When that percentage drastically drops, in the past, there's been a heavy rotation into altcoins and other crypto related assets. And when that happens, that's typically when we have alt season. And we have this alt season index also on the Rainbow Chart website. Pretty nice. Check it out. You can see here higher lows getting close to creating a higher high, but we haven't had any of those alt season or altcoin year spikes yet, at least according to this website. And as far as the Rainbow Chart is concerned, you guys can see here that since the halving, we've just been going down. Now, we did get into the accumulate zone, and as far as, I'm just going to put it out a week or two, as far as that accumulate zone, it shows a low of 48K, it says 47.8. You can look at that teal box on the left. And the next zone up, the still cheap zone, if we get back in there, shows a range between 62 and 80K. So anywhere between 48 and 80K in the near term, I think, is to be expected. Just another thing to keep in mind, guys, is that you can see right here, even in election years, quarter four typically tends to be very bullish. So have we entered that sooner than later? Again, I find it somewhat, my spidey senses are tingling. I don't know how else to describe this other than something is different right now, that we haven't had this volatility. Maybe after the election we will sometime in November. Who knows? That has happened before with crypto. We don't have to go back that far. You can see here, you can see the dates at the bottom. There was a November drop just a couple years ago. Are we going to get something like that? Maybe, I don't know, but that was when there was the whole FTX exchange that went bankrupt. All the stuff with Sam Bankman-Fried, and yeah, that was the last time we had a November drop. But typically it's been in October. So you can see, where was October last year? So October did start to go up last time. And then the year before, you can see October went up, and then November was bearish in 22, and of course bullish in 23. So we'll see what happens this time. Anyways, I talked about how we were going to measure from the lows to the eventual peaks, because that's something we've taken a look at. The average from remember the new all-time high is the yellow line, the halving's a white line. We already did the math on that. So let's take a look at the lows to the next eventual peak. So we're going to take our ruler here, and I'm just going to eyeball it and see where the low is. We're looking at the weekly, so there might be a little bit of plus or minus a few weeks. But here you can see 742 days. So a little bit over 2 years. You guys know 355, 56 days in a year. So you do that times 2, that's about 700. So a little bit over 2 years to the eventual peak, 742 days. All right, you can see here there was a double bottom. So let's measure both of them out just to see what we got. This was to the 2017 peak. And you can see there 1,064 days. I'm going to pull out my phone calculator quick and see what that shows. So 1,064 divided by 356 days, that's about 3 years. So there are 3 years from that bottom to the peak. Again, the last one was a little bit over 2. This one was 3. Or you could say 847 days from that next peak. And then, yeah, that would be about 2.3 years. Okay, so yeah, about 2 to 3 years, but from the from the low to the eventual top. So, and by the way, I'm pretty sure I misspoke before saying 350 days in a year. It's 365. Sorry, morning brain. Anyway, so let's go to the next one. So we have 2 to 3 years. You can see right here clearly that is the bottom there. And this one, 1,064 again. So that gets close to that 3-year mark, okay? 1,064 there, that's kind of interesting. And then 1,064 here, okay? This one, we had 840, and that first one was about 700. Let's go to this peak here, because this peak was alt season. I'm just curious about that. The alts that when they ran, most of them ran in that first peak, there is about 861. So we have an average between 700 to 1,000 days. We can put that in the middle and just say 850 days. And if you're curious again what 850 days is, if we take that divided by 365, it's about 2.3 years. 2.3 years from the bottom to the eventual top. Again, we're just going to take the average of around 850. So where does 850 put us? Oh, right here. You guys can see March of next year. Okay, you see that number, 850 days, March of next year. Okay, which puts us right in this range from the average of the former all-time, or the new break of the new all-time high. Sorry, the break of the former all-time high when we make a new one. How many days from there to the peak, and then the average from the halving, the white line, to the eventual peak. We just took a rough estimate that every, I don't know, 2.3 years or so, that is how long it takes from the bottom to the eventual peak, and that is at about March of next year. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a vertical line. We're going to put that right here at around March, and let's color that something different because we're going from the bottoms of each cycle. Have all these different colored lines. Let's do another green one or maybe a teal one. Okay, and we're just going to write down average from bottom to next peak, and then I'll put 850 days. All right. So overall, guys, I've said this before on my channel. A lot of YouTube channels, a lot of crypto influencers on X, all the crypto people, they care more about being right and making predictions than making money. So right here, you know, whether any sort of prediction comes true and the eventual top is inside this range or close to that March peak. And by the way, that March peak, you know what 4-year cycle that would show? That would show 4 years from this top we had in 21, the alt season top, to the next top. So March, April, that's when we had alt season. To me, that's when the true crypto top was. That would show 4 years from there. So we've had these 4-year cycles from, you can see here, November, December 2013, December 2017, November 2021. That was the actual peak of Bitcoin. It got around 69,000. But again, alt season, when Bitcoin was at 65,000 near the peak in here, this is when alt season was. So we've had 4-year cycles to November, December. What if we're going to have 4-year cycles from March? And a reason we might have that, as you guys remember, I know you're trying to forget, is that post-COVID, you can see here is a COVID crash. The government injected trillions all around the world, trillions and trillions of dollars, printed out of thin air, supercharged the economy, record low rates, all that led to an early top. Maybe that sort of reset the average 4-year cycle for crypto, and the next cycle is going to be another 4-year cycle. However, it's going to start from this peak now instead of that peak. I don't know. It's just a thought. So, you know, going back over to the chart here and what I was saying before, guys, I don't care about being right as much as I do making money and answering the essential question, is now a good time to buy crypto? Now, there's one of two ways to look at it. One, you could say, holy crap, the market's moved up a lot. Stocks, you guys saw, we are in extreme greed. You saw that we haven't had the election volatility. However, on the flip side, you have seen that, well, even in election years, Q4 tends to be very bullish. And in this scenario, which we are already in, the dark green scenario, that post rate cuts, if we don't get a recession right away, typically it can be prolonged a year-ish, give or take, that if after Fed rate cuts we don't get a recession yet, that crypto will do better sooner than later, okay? Another bullish way to look at it is that when the Fed is cutting fast and heavy, then that shows that there's big problems in the market. We don't have that right now. And in fact, the Fed, as far as the odds of another 50 basis point cut, people are talking about that the odds are they only do a 25 basis point cut or no cut at all in the month of November. Again, we will see, but don't get stuck on this 50 number. Remember, the Fed's not cutting rates this month. They cut 50 in September, no meeting in October. So that just shows an average of 25 basis point cuts, in my opinion. So don't obsess about the number. I'm still thinking we're in somewhat of a 1998 style scenario where we can run up before we had the .com bubble. I believe we're in something of an AI bubble. So again, answering the essential question, is now a good time to buy? Well, I would say just by going from the market bottoms to the eventual peak, you could say, well, there's still a bit of room for crypto to run, at least on average from prior cycles, that the peaks will be somewhere up here. But then again, I want you guys to manage your expectations. there's two ways to look at this. One, if you're just a Bitcoin person, we've talked about where the next Bitcoin peak might be. And on the charts here, if we draw a Fibonacci retracement, you can see that, by the way, these are great for taking a look at prices between the low and the high. And we're not going to go through all this again, but when you take the fib off log scale, you can see the extensions of the 1618 around 100K to the 2618 at about 154K. Each cycle, those extensions, those Fibonacci price target extensions have gone down. Now you can see last time, the last cycle, we only got between the 3618 and the 4236. Okay. Again, I'm not going to draw these for all the prior ones, but each cycle we hit a lower Fibonacci extension. So if crypto only hit here, I'm expecting something between here next time around. Okay. Again, the 2618 at around 155K. Again, there's lots of people saying, oh, Bitcoin's going to 500K, a million. Sure, maybe many years down the road, but I just don't think yet, in my opinion. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if we do have a 4-year cycle top next year, I'm going to be eyeing in this 100K region. Now, another factor to consider with all this is, let's go over to Bitcoin Rainbow chart. Let's go from the tops. So you can see we were above the max bubble territory here. In the next top, 2017, we were in max bubble. 2021, we were in the upper and the lower end, or I could say the middle, I guess, the middle and the lower end of this seriously sell area. So the next time around, I'm looking at orange. Should we have a top in March of next year in that orange, look where that puts us. That orange box, 155K. That number keeps popping up. And it says to 200K. Hey, if we get to 180, anywhere close to 100, great. Okay, I don't know. I don't care. Again, I'm looking for when alt season tanks, or when alt season goes and when Bitcoin dominance tanks. We'll get to that in a minute. But you can see how Bitcoin has these diminished returns from the top and also from the halving. When I started my channel, we were talking about how each halving we go up a zone. Okay, each halving we've gone up a zone. Each top we've gone down a zone. Okay, so Bitcoin is leveling out on this logarithmic regression band. Okay, you can see log scale factor of tens. And it's just curious to me, like back in the COVID times here, when I don't know if you're a nerd like me, but if you're watching the COVID data was on a log scale as well, where eventually it just kind of went out to the side, before dropping. So is that what Bitcoin's doing? Just something on a log scale before dropping or ripping? I don't know. But as far as Bitcoin dominance, maybe we can end there. We're getting close to 20 minutes. So we're on the weekly scale. Guys, again, 58% of money's in crypto, and you can see these big red candles. 4 weeks here in 2017, and then about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, a month and a half last two times has been the alt season. Now this time I'm looking for a max of around 61, 62% before it eventually tanks. And again, I'm looking for the low 40%. Bitcoin dominance crosses under this upper line area here. You can see it's just, sure, I could put the trend line a little higher, but whatever. Once it crosses under this roughly 47, 48% line, I think that is basically the bottom of the ninth inning, the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter, throwing all the analogies, if you will. That is when I'm going to say, hey, it's go time. In my opinion, be ready to withdraw your funds. So again, is now a good time to buy? It is. If you're retail, which I'm assuming all of you are, what hedge fund person would be watching this? But if you're retail, it's better to buy in here than down here. Okay, and down there, by the way, let's put this back on auto. When Bitcoin dominance is peaking, that's up here. Okay, that's up here and here. Okay, March top was up here. I believe we're more down here. Okay, and I've talked about how last cycle, because there's a lot of things that remind us that this is a lot like 2019 post mid-cycle top, that this was the last great time to buy. Now, are we going to have a hard landing or any sort of a landing? I don't know. But the way I look at it, again, this is why I stress over the moving averages. It's just probabilities right now. That when we were anywhere around that 50-week moving average or 100-week moving average, that's the last good time to buy. Okay. And if we're any bit similar, anytime we're around these moving averages or even the 786, actually, I have to put that back on a log scale for the 786 fib to be in the right spot. See that? So if we get down to the 100, I've talked about, hey, that's a possibility. If we get anywhere in this area, to me, that's a yellow 8-pin zone. I'll be very happy to back up the truck and buy it at that time. I don't know if we're going to get there, but that's how I look at it, is probabilities. Bought in a decent amount here at the 50. I'm hoping for the 100. Not saying it's going to happen. But again, the essential question, I believe now is a better time to buy than at 150K or when Bitcoin dominance is dipped. That's when you're going to see retail flooding back. The last couple months, that's when you're going to hear family and friends randomly talking about crypto. And that is going to be as close to the top signal as you can find. People that you never hear talking about crypto, then you know a top is near. So again, what did we accomplish today? We talked about the average of the bottom to the next peak. It's around 850 days, and that fits nicely in our range. So again, this is just a range. I don't care when the top is. I don't care if it happens in this range or out of this range. I'm looking at probabilities and areas to buy. I've talked about in other videos, ways to buy. We have the moving averages. We have these buy-sell signals. I did talk about the RSI too. I like buying it on the weekly. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful week and a happy Monday. Take care.